Morning. My name is Tad Babsky. I'm the head of T&J Consultants. At the beginning of this project, we wanted to find ways to make merger operations in the future easier and with uh, less stress for both the people that you were being merged with, and to cut down on overtime, confusion, and the decisions of personnel to move to other companies. We interviewed the people involved in this latest merger with Hospice Advantage and your company, Hospice Compassus, and we determined that most of your problems were due to a lack of planning, insufficient personnel, and an over-accelerated timeline. All of these problems stem directly from lack of planning. In the military, we called it the 6 Ps: proper prior planning prevents poor performance. The first thing you need to do when you are merging a company, when you're planning to merge your company, is to create a timeline. Now, most timelines, when they're initially drawn up, are over accelerated. They don't account for everyday things that have to happen regardless of whether there's a merger or not. Most people are concerned with are getting the merger done, and to heck with everything else. Well, in cases like this where you're dealing with patients, the everyday things have to happen in addition to the merger operations. Instead of transferring 80 patients in a week from Hospice Advantage to Hospice Compassus, try slowing it down a little bit. Do 20 per week. It may stretch out your timeline some, but it also allows for the normal operations that go with something like this to happen. This includes in-service training, going from the Hospice Advantage way to the Hospice Compassus way. It allows for the changes in paperwork to be done and understood. But you have to schedule time for training for new personnel. That's a given. But they have to be able to complete the daily tasks that go with it. This creates unnecessary overtime for the nurses, for your office staff, your office personnel. They stay late. This creates stress in the families. Takes away from family time. So extending your timeline is essential, and to ensure that it takes everything into consideration. Now, once you get your timeline done, another military adage is no plan survives first contact with the enemy. Your timeline's not going to survive the first time you do it. Not a big deal. There's another one that I fall back on, another military adage that I fall back on: improvise, adapt, and overcome. If you can't improvise when something goes wrong, you won't be able to adapt, and you won't be able to overcome the problems that it is created, that something, whatever broke, created. So you have to make those correct decisions. Another problem was having enough personnel to handle all the aspects of the merger. when you don't have enough personnel, you run the risk of, once again, overburdening your personnel. Creates overtime, creates drama at the house, uh, all of that stuff. I mean, you've got to have enough personnel. Now, on the flip side, if you have too many personnel, you've got people standing around that you're paying for things for people that are doing nothing but sitting there drinking coffee, going out to lunch for 3 hours, stuff like that. It's an inefficient use of resources. You've got to get that right balance between not enough and too many. It takes experience, and I understand that takes time. But if you have a team that one or two teams that are dedicated, when you have a merger happening, then you know it's coming. Having those one or two teams that specialize in that, in merger operations, can make the biggest difference in the world in creating less stress, less overtime, less personal problems as the merger goes along. You've got to, and it's all of these stem from lack of planning, and that's what I have done. Is I have set up some standard operating procedures for your people to follow when these merger operations happen, and I'm going to go over them, and hopefully you'll use them. I've put it into three stages: pre-merger planning, the merger execution, and the post-merger tasks. Pre-merger planning, first thing you do is you design a timeline. You allow enough time for all your tasks to be completed, not just your merger tasks, but everyday tasks also. You got to prepare your personnel roster, ensure that you have adequate personnel for the task, and then you prepare your task list, ensure that all personnel know what their assigned function is. You designate personnel from the merging company as contact points for your team, and then you work with the merging company personnel to ensure that all routine and merger tasks are completed in a timely and sensible manner. Pre-merger planning, there you go. Once you get on the ground, like I said earlier, your timeline's probably not going to survive first contact. Not a big deal. Improvise, adapt, and overcome. You can't be so locked into doctrine that you can't be flexible enough to do something when stuff breaks. Now, during a merger execution, you get to know your merger personnel and your contact points. This creates a rapport between the two companies, and I find it to be very helpful. You use your timeline as a guide. Your timeline is not written in stone. Be flexible. You got to be flexible. You got to ensure proper communication between personnel from both companies. You have to take adequate time to explain any miscommunications. Miscommunications, rumors, gossip, all of that happens. You're going to have people all day long saying stuff is going bad, stuff is going wrong. Look, don't worry about it. If stuff like that happens, what you do is you stop, get your people together, and talk it out. So what are your problems? What are your solutions? What can we do to set your mind at ease? Then you provide your in-service training to all personnel, break it into more manageable blocks to ensure that everyday tasks are accomplished as well. Then your post-merger tasks. Post-merger is actually more important than any of the other tasks. The other two, those are good, but post-merger is very, very important. It's more important than the other two sections. You got to get all the parties directly involved together for an after-action review. During that after-action review, you're going to review all your actions taken during the merger operations. You're going to identify problem areas during the merger process, and you're going to discuss solutions to those identified. Discuss solutions to the identified problems. And then once those proposals are done for the identified problems, then you discuss how to fix it all along the way. You discuss operations that went well, what went good, what went bad. I mean, you've got to do both sides of the coin. You're going to discuss ways to improve what went well, so you constantly improve on your merger operations, so that after a while, it's not a big deal. I mean, you can get it done. Everybody's happy. Everybody's, well, maybe not happy, but they're satisfied. And then finally, you want to prepare a merger report and submit it to higher management, to upper management. These are the standard operating procedures that I've made up for y'all. Thank you for choosing T&J Consultants. I hope to work with y'all again in the near future. Thank you.